Hello and welcome to the Wellness Paradigm podcast. This episode is brought to you by the Wellness Paradigm, a holistic health coaching company shifting the way women understand and heal their bodies. Through bioenergetic testing, functional lab testing, and functional nutrition, we uncover what traditional approaches often overlook so you can stop guessing, start healing, and finally feel like yourself again. No more one size fits all approach, just real answers, deep rooted healing, and the clarity and confidence you deserve to feel incredible. It's time to shift the paradigm of women's health. Now, on to the show. Hello, Mogeen. I am so excited that you're here. I want to introduce her. She is offers a really unique insight that I think is going to be incredible for any woman, but especially, moms, people that are overcoming some chronic illnesses, but she helps busy working women create deeper connections with their children by freeing up guilt-free quality time without the overwhelm. Through mindset shifts, simple systems, and strategic use of moments, she empowers moms to organize their time, elevate their wellness, and experience more joy and fulfillment in motherhood. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. You can call me Mo, by the way.
Okay, Mo. Right when I saw that, I was like, oh, I didn't even ask if you wanted me to, put that a little bit shorter, but I love that. Hi, Mo. Welcome, welcome. If
Thank
you want to expand a little bit more on who you are and what you do, I'd love to hear it from your perspective.
So I am a mom. I have two kids and I have a chronic illness. And so the journey of health is really it's really important to me because when you're healthy, you can be the best mom you can be.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
that's a big thing in what I do to help other moms. I help them optimize their time, but part of that is making sure they're taking care of themselves so they can be healthy, so they can be present for their kids.
I think that's so empowering. I got chills like even hearing that because I think as moms, we often want to just give, give, give. And we realize we can't, you hear it, can't pour from an empty cup, right? And it's like optimizing your body wellness. This is what I talk about on this podcast all the time, right? It's like
Hmm.
because you show up not only as your best, version of yourself, but you can be a better, more present mom. And if you want to, I know you're, launching your business too, like you can feel better to do the things in business and, entrepreneurship that are so, so incredible. Tell us a little bit about what you kind of are launching.
So I am launching, it's a 10-week coaching program to help moms to address each area of their lives, to optimize their time, like I already said, but to really make the most of the time that they do have. I like to call it micro moments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just those teeny tiny little moments when we often are thinking negatively about ourselves or scrolling on our phone. Um, when if we choose instead to be engaged with our children or even just smiling for 5 seconds, it makes a big difference.
It does. I can't remember. There's one study on like the average time a child looks at you in like a minute or 2 minutes, and it's like so high. And you realize how much we just get trapped into our phones and,
Mhm.
distractions, especially moms are like forever to-do list. But that presence is so important. I'd love to walk it back and tell me a little bit about your health journey.
Okay, so in 2015, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I was a normal college student, living the dream.
Mhm.
Um, but I went downhill really quickly. I barely finished that semester, and within 6 months, I was crippled, walking with two canes. I had the mentality of a special needs girl. Um, I even had a British accent for a week, which it's called foreign language syndrome, because the
Ooh.
nerves in my face were affected.
Oh, interesting.
I know it's a
Gosh, I
strange
never
one.
heard that.
Yeah. Well, and depending on the language that you speak, you have a different accent.
Hmm.
So I don't remember what any of the other ones are, but for English, it's a British accent.
Fascinating.
Um, so I was in that place and we, I don't remember much of it. It was about a month, but I know that my parents felt pretty hopeless. And they prayed a lot, and I finally got in with a good doctor, the best doctor for multiple sclerosis patients in the state. And he put me on a medication. And then once I was on that medication, I started to improve. And even on the MRI scans, it showed my lesions, which are the scars in the brain. It showed them shrinking or even sometimes disappearing.
Nice.
And so I improved mentally before I improved physically. So I was mentally present again, but still walking with two canes, still had double vision, and it was really depressing. And
Mm,
I didn't know what the purpose of my life was.
mm,
And I finally realized that as long as I am helping people, then there is a reason to live, a
mm,
purpose to my existence. And so I started to fight. And that's when I started to make the most of micro moments. And I remember the day that I ran around my parents' front yard without the canes or holding on to anyone. I ran around the front yard by myself and I was so happy and I cried because I was so happy. And a year later I was able to run a half marathon. And it took a bunch of small steps, starting from running around that front yard to running a half marathon wasn't just a 1 day leap.
yep.
It took a lot of tiny steps, a lot of hard work, um, especially on my health.
Yeah. I mean, that's truly an incredible feat. You mentioned fighting and kind of almost rewiring, your brain to not being almost like a victim, mindset anymore. And it's
Mhm.
like, can you tell me what you kind of did specifically to help kind of shift that for you? Because everything starts in the brain, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and your body kind of tends to catch up. So talk a little bit about that.
So I find a lot of inspiration in the stories of other people.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know if you know about Wilma Rudolph.
I do.
Okay, so she's a track athlete and she had polio, so she was basically unable to walk for the first 10 years of her life. And her mom massaged her legs every day, and then she finally got to where she could run and she was fast.
Hmm.
And that story really inspires me because she couldn't do it before, and I couldn't do it. And the thing is, just because you can't do something at one point doesn't mean that you can't do it sometime in the future.
Mm. Hmm.
You just have to take the right journey to get there.
Bless. And that journey looks different for everybody.
Hmm.
Well, that's why I also love bringing people on this podcast and not only necessarily experts, but people to share their story for inspiration, because it's, if there's somebody else that did it, you're like, that it like unlocks a whole different world for you, right? You're like, wait a minute, they
Hmm.
did it. I can do it too. Why not?
Right.
Why not me? You know? Um, so I love that. Was there anything else that you found kind of worked in this healing journey for you?
Um, well, I learned that exercise is really important
Yeah.
for me.
Hmm.
Any kind of physical activity, because it not just helps the disease to be more mild, but it keeps me mentally in a good space.
Hmm.
With MS, depression is really common, and I think that's because of the brain damage that occurs. And so, doing what I can to keep myself stable and in a good place, the biggest thing is exercise for me.
Yes, I love that. Um, with kind of managing your progression of the disease, what have you found, or how have you found it's almost benefited you being a mom, you being now a business owner, how you show up just on the day-to-day basis?
So, working on my wellness with my disease has made everything a lot more doable. But I think something important for people to realize is that when you have illnesses, it's like you're building a tower of blocks, and then inevitably, we're all imperfect. The blocks tip over, and you have to start again and build it up again. And you do that again and again. And so, keeping yourself in a mindset where you can actually keep trying and not giving up has really helped me with being a mom because it's hard to be a mom.
Yeah.
Kids are tiring
Yes, they are.
and very cute,
Very.
but yeah, that's
I think that's a good point is a lot of people on their healing journey think, A to B is going to be a straight line, right? And
mhm.
and it's not. If you're listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see my hands, but it's usually like things are going good. Up, we have maybe a little setback, and oh, we're going up, 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 and then we may and like you have to find that mental resilience, not just the physical that you're working on, to keep you going during those, certain drops because they're there to teach you something. And that's okay. And through that, you build a lot more, not only physical resilience, but that mental resilience too, which I think carries not only over to being a business owner, because you need that, but also just being a mom in general. Would you agree with that?
Oh, completely.
Yeah. With how you found shifting, you mentioned like micro moments, right?
Uh-huh.
To somebody that's maybe never heard that term or really aligns with that term, describe maybe a few different kind of actionable steps that they can take to kind of shift their mindset, build a little bit more resilience, and just find a little bit more of that, little happiness day to day.
So, first off, micro moments, I kind of made it up, the word.
Yeah.
But they exist for everyone.
Yes.
So an example would be, let's say every time you sit down on the couch, the first thing you do is grab your phone and just open it, check if you have any messages.
Mhm.
And it takes 10 to 15 seconds, and it doesn't seem like it's a big deal. But when you sprinkle in 10 to 15 seconds throughout your whole day, it drags on you. Um, I like to tell this story about a man who went to California during the gold rush to get a big, huge golden nugget, and he couldn't find one. And one day he went and he met an old man who had a big pouch of gold, and he was like, "Can you show me that gold nugget? Because I've never seen one that big." And the old man poured it into his hand, and it was tiny little flecks of gold. So he didn't find a huge gold nugget. And making the most of these micro moments is like gathering the flecks of gold and sprinkling them throughout your day so that as a whole, your day has a gold nugget in it. And
Mhm.
that makes you happier, it makes you healthier, it makes you more successful. And so those micro moments, like sitting down, pulling out your phone, if instead of doing that, you choose to do something else, like I mentioned this before, but even just smiling for a couple seconds, it boosts your mood a little bit,
Yep.
even if you don't feel happy.
Hmm. It's true. I think that there's like literal scientific evidence if you just like smile, just like moving those muscles. I think it requires some of the most amount of muscles in your body to like facilitate a smile or a frown. I can't remember what it is.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should be ingenuine and not show our true feelings because that has a host of its own problems.
Yes.
Um, but just choosing to smile sometimes can make a difference.
Yeah. 100%. I love what you just said about, not you're not being ingenuine, right? Um,
Mhm.
but sometimes as moms too, we don't know why we're in like a mood. We don't know why, it's just about gently shifting that body to being like, you're okay, you're safe. Nothing's
Mhm.
wrong. It's you can honor those feelings and also move through them at the same time, you know. That kind of duality is so important in motherhood.
Yeah. I love that you said the duality because really there's no perfect solution or perfect truth. Everything is kind of blended together into shades of gray.
Mm. Oh, yes. And, that's all shaped by our past, our experiences, who we are, who your family is.
Hmm.
Would you say by doing this, I know we were talking before we started recording about kind of your postpartum experience, second time around being, a lot easier, a lot better. Would you contribute a lot of that to, well, what would you contribute that kind of the most to?
Well, I don't know if I can pick just one thing.
It's never just one thing.
Um, but I think one big thing was that I stayed on my MS medication during pregnancy. Another big thing is that I've been working on building this business. So having something to work towards and that is my own
Yeah.
has made a difference with my mental state. And I feel like I'm more present for my baby than I would be otherwise.
Well, let's highlight this for a hot sec because I have a lot of moms that listen, a lot of entrepreneurs that are, listening, maybe want to be business owners too, but it's like we feel guilty for taking away, we think it's taking away from the time with our kids.
Mhm.
But when you feel fulfillment, alignment, happiness, and it brings you more presence and more peace, right?
Mhm.
And so I love that you highlighted that where you're like, I'm building this for me. And this doesn't mean necessarily building a business. This could mean like, I know for some of my clients, I bought them like adult coloring books, right? You
Oh,
know,
nice.
that's their time, right? Or maybe they're getting into painting because they painted when they were a kid, right? It doesn't have to be like, doing this whole thing, but it's something that's for you and only for you not selfishly, but like something that brings you peace, right? Or happiness.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like as moms, it's always like, oh, we want to find happiness so we can do this for our kids. There's always like a but or like a, like I have to
Mhm.
give to get kind of thing. Um, and I just wanted to highlight that a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, we're each individuals. We have our souls, and our souls need certain things in order to thrive.
Hmm.
And for us to be present with our kids, for us to help other people, we have to help ourselves too and take care of our souls, our spirits, our
Mm.
physical bodies.
Beautifully ties in to just everything we talked about today. I feel like that's a really good place to kind of wrap things up a little bit. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I do want to make sure that if women or moms, I think is your community just for moms?
Yeah, just for moms.
I know she has a free school community if you want to tell us a little bit about it, and I'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, so I have a free school community. It's called You Got This Mama
Mhm.
because you do. And it's to help moms to find the support that they need in each other.
Mm. Yes.
So, because there's a benefit not only from being supported, but being able to use your experience to support others. And so, this community is a place for that. We have weekly calls that
Mm.
people can join and just chat.
I love that. Community and motherhood is so important and healing.
Hmm.
Yes, I love that. Well, I will link that down in the show notes if you guys want to join. I'll also link when you give me details about your program as well that I'll be launching soon, definitely by the time this comes out. And I want to thank you for being on the show. If you guys enjoyed the show, I encourage you to follow Mo, share this episode. I'd love to know thoughts about if this resonated with you. Feel free to leave a comment or DM me, and we'll see you on the next one.